Welcome to every movie I've ever seen. Today, the movie that I'm going to be talking about is Cube. This is the first Cube movie in the Cube trilogy that consists of one of the greatest titles of all time, Cube 2 Hypercube, and Cube Zero, which I guess takes place before the first Cube, I think. Uh, this movie, it's a pretty decent movie. It's not bad. Not really anything special. Kind of your standard, your sort of a standard run of the mill uh, horror movie, I guess. I mean, not exactly standard because it is a little unique. Obviously, the whole cube setting itself and the traps and whatnot, and these characters in it. There's a couple characters, maybe like 5 or 6 characters. They're just randomly dropped into this cube, and they gotta survive and maybe find a way out of the cube. They will enter into a cube, and it maybe has a trap or it's maybe saved. They gotta figure it out, and then there's numbers. They gotta try and figure out if maybe there's some pattern to the cube, if they could formulate a map to try and figure out where the exit would be. Of course, eventually they do this. They find out that the cube is moving around, which is an added difficulty to leaving the cube. So yeah, it's standard in a way that it isn't standard. I don't know. It's not anything special. It's unique, but not special. I think maybe that's the best way to put it. There's a couple interesting little details. I think it was kind of cool that that the people in the cube have names based on prisons. No one in it that There's no one in it that I really recognize, except for, I believe his name is Julian Richards. He's in the beginning scene. He has a recurring role in the TV show Supernatural. Back when I was watching it, he played honestly one of the coolest characters on the show. And I think he's a pretty decent actor. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a couple other things he's been in if he ever had a lead role in something. But yeah, no one else that's really familiar to me, at least. And it didn't seem like, this isn't a big budget movie that's going to have A or B celeb attached to it. Low budget. It's neat. They actually built a cube, and I believe in this one the cubes have different lighting. I know in the second one the cubes are all white, but in this cube they have different colored lighting. They'll have a red cube, a blue cube, a green cube, maybe red, blue, green, maybe yellow, red, blue, maybe just red, blue, and green. I don't know. There's no purple. Maybe there was a white cube as well. I don't remember. But anyway, they built one cube, and so it was neat how they, finding out how they would, instead of switching the lights back and forth, they would film every scene they needed in the red cube, and then they would film every scene they needed in a blue cube, and then the red cube, and then the green cube, which is how movies are, for the most part, standardly filmed. You have a location, you try and film everything you need in that location, and then you move on to the next location. So you are filming out of order. Now, when I ended up watching this a second time ago, which was still a little bit ago, when I watched it the second time, there was an interesting thing that I noticed, a concept in this movie that I really liked. There's the guy there who knows a little bit more about the cube. He was involved in a small extent in the designing of the cube. And he talks about the cube and kind of like the history of the cube. And he's talking and he's saying stuff like it was, it was built by people who, they ordered people to do this because they were ordered to do this, and there's all this like secrecy around the cube, and they're investing all this time and all this money into the cube. But by the time they finally have the cube, they don't really know what the original purpose of the cube was. So at this point now, I think the government, or maybe an evil corporation or whatever, they have the cube and they don't know what they were supposed to do with it, so they just start throwing random people in there, because the concept is, if they're not using it, it's almost like admitting that it was pointless and doesn't have a purpose, and they wasted all this time and money. So they use it not for any purpose, they're just using the cube to use it. There's no rhyme or reason why they're putting these people in there, which I think Cube Zero takes away from that a little bit. And Hypercube is all weird. But yeah. That was a concept that I thought was actually pretty interesting and pretty neat to think about, because that's something that you could potentially see happening in the real world with the way governments and organizations work. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting concept. So yeah, the movie, it was a decent movie. Had some interesting ideas, effects, of course, a lot of practical stuff, which is always good. I'm sure there was some CGI. Can't remember any moments off the top of my head. But yeah, and that's all I have to say about Cube.